So when you've used the same science curriculum for 6 years in a row, I think it's safe to say that you like it. So let's talk Apologia. If you're new here, I'm Rian, a Christ-following wife and a homeschool mom to 3 boys. Here we talk all things homeschool, and we will learn together how to use our roles as wife, mom, teacher, and homemaker in order to glorify God. So we've used Apologia Science since my oldest was in 1st grade. So kindergarten is the only year that he did not use Apologia Science. And we started it because our co-op was using it at the time. They used it when he was in kindergarten too, but the kindergartners didn't do it, so we didn't start it that year. But we kind of followed along with whatever one they were doing that year. That's one we did at home, which was great because he got to do all the science demonstrations and experiments at co-op with other people and materials that I didn't have to find and all the things. But the only downside to that was some of the stuff that he did as a younger elementary student really should have waited until he was 4th, 5th, 6th grade. But it's okay. It is what it is. And, you know, the good thing is as he comes around to middle school and high school, he'll revisit those things. It's not like that's the only time he's ever going to see human anatomy and physics and all of that type of stuff. So the 5 that we've already done are sea creatures, land animals, astronomy, chemistry and physics, and human anatomy. Not in that order. I don't remember the exact order we did them all in. But so this year we are trying their newest in the Young Explorer series, which is Earth Science. And my boys were super excited for this one. I let them pick between this one and I think flying creatures. I think that's the only other one we haven't done. But they wanted this one hands down because they are super excited about all things to do with gems and rocks and all of that kind of stuff, gold and, you know, all of that. I don't know if it's just like the adventuresome boy in them, you know, that you want to dig for the buried treasure and you want to find crystals and diamonds and all the things. But they were really excited about it. And so far it is really good. I mean, we're only 6 weeks in, so I can't speak for the whole curriculum, but I thought I would pull it out, you know, as we're using it and let you see kind of what it looks like on the inside. I took a poll on Instagram, and this is the one that won out as far as what you guys wanted to see most. So let me tell you a little bit about why I love Apologia so much, and then we will turn this camera around and open it up and let you look inside. So my favorite thing about Apologia is their worldview. So it is written from a biblical worldview, and so you will constantly find sprinkled within things pointing us back to the Creator, right? And that this is His world and He made it for His own glory, and He made it with purpose, and there's a certain responsibility of us, you know, to take care of the things He's given us, not in some weird like nature worshiping way, but I don't know, it just always points back to Creator, and I love that. There's even scripture sprinkled throughout it. It is written in a really engaging way. It is a textbook, but it does not sound like a textbook. It is written kind of from that first person narrative. And so, you know, this person will even share stories from when they were a child. And it's just really engaging. It's not like the textbook that I had when I was a kid, for sure. Also, all the experiments and demonstrations in there are pretty easy. Usually kind of the end of the lesson, there will be kind of a bigger experiment that isn't as easy, but it's not that bad, at least in these, you know, younger grade levels. I have not done any of the, you know, upper middle school, high school levels yet, so I cannot speak for those. And I know it's a different ball game there, but just from the ones that I've done, nothing has been too incredibly hard. And a lot of them, especially the little demonstrations that are throughout the chapter, are just from things that you would find at home, right? You don't have to buy a bunch of extra stuff. Occasionally it might be like, you know, borax or something. And I have borax at home because I make my own laundry detergent, but you know, some people may not, but it's not like it's some big expensive thing that's hard to find. I also love how it's planned out. They have a suggested schedule of what sections of reading to do per day, and the corresponding notebooking journal pages that you can do with that if you choose to do that. And so it makes it really easy for me to lesson plan. I also love that all of the text is available in audio form, which is where it's at. I shared an Instagram reel not too long ago. We always play that during lunch. So it makes it to where I can eat too. I don't have to be, I love using that lunchtime, those meal times as times to teach, because when hands and mouths are busy, then they can learn and think. But, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, but I want to eat too. Like I can't eat and read at the same time. And so we'll just pull out the textbook, set it on the kitchen table. and flip and read along as she's reading. And it just makes lunchtime so enjoyable. And I'm productive because I'm killing two birds with one stone, and it just feeds my little productive, loving heart. But also, most importantly, my kids are enjoying this, right? My kids are also retaining things from this. So at the end of each lesson, you have a what do you remember section. And actually in this book, it changed it up, and it's not just at the end of the lesson. It's kind of throughout the chapter, they ask a few very pointed questions about what they've learned so far. And my boys have always been able to answer the question. So I really think that they are retaining what they're hearing. So just to kind of give you an idea of what's in here and what is going to be covered, we have lesson 1, the observable universe, life in the habitable zone, spheres of the earth, mapping out your world, the geosphere, making and shaping the land, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, climate and weather forecasting, the biosphere, cycles of life, and then unique places on earth and God and creation. If you get the notebooking journal or the junior notebooking journal, they actually have in here how you could break it up. So week 1, lesson 1, here's like day 1, day 2, and then week 2, day 1, day 2. And so it averages out to about 2 lessons a week. But I love that because then I don't have to sit and think, so many pages do we need to read to be to this chapter by this week in our school year and all of that. Okay, so I'm gonna go and look at lesson 2 just to give you an idea of what one lesson might look like. So this is Life in the Habitable Zone. You can see there's lots of good pictures and illustrations. Again, we have this worldview section. So it just talks about how this all points back to the creator. Then good illustrations to demonstrate what we're talking about, and lots of good breaks so that you know when you can stop and just kind of maybe discuss. Here is an activity. Like I said, there's lots of activities just sprinkled throughout. So this is one of the ones that maybe takes a little more preparing and gathering of materials. But like I said, there's a lot in here that are just super, super simple. There, I zoomed you out a little bit so you can see more the full page. Lots of cool pictures. Then here's another activity that you can do with magnets, talking about, us going around the sun and what that means for daytime and different seasons and all of that. And then it wraps up with what do you remember and moves on to lesson 3. Now here's what the notebooking journal would look like for that same lesson. So it starts off with a coloring page. My kids don't usually do those because like I said, we're usually eating during that time, so they don't have the time to really color. I always am tempted to color because I love coloring, but I don't. And then they just have kind of a note-taking page where they can draw pictures and write out what they've learned. And then these are for your activities where you can, just kind of keep track of what you did. Because we do our activities with our co-op, I don't have them do them there. They take notes usually in their notebooks at co-op. And then here they have sometimes cut and paste activities. You can make little booklets. This one you just had to glue the earth in the different spots for the different seasons. There is word searches for vocabulary. This is making a scrapbook page. See, we don't always do everything in this. We do some things and then some things and we don't have time, or I just don't feel like we need to, we don't do it. And then here is our what do you remember? So this is how you know if they've retained the lesson or not. And then you can add photos that you may have taken throughout. That's a little extra for my liking, but some people are really into that. So I'm glad there's a space to do it. And then we move on to lesson 3. Now, of course, as the lessons go on, this gets a little more in depth maybe, but that's what it looks like for now. And see throughout you will have these little books that you can make. My boys enjoy making those, and it really helps it kind of solidify what they've learned. So that's really it. It is pretty simple. Like I said, it's laid out really simply, so there's not too many moving parts. But I love there's lots of pictures. The sections are manageable, right? And so at the end of each section, you could even ask your kid, what do you remember from this section? You could have them, narrate to you what they learned. It just depends just kind of how you want to do it. So the things that I love that make this even better is, like I said, using the audio during lunch. I already mentioned that one. But also the fact that we do the demonstrations and the experiments with our co-op. So I have friends who don't even do a full-blown co-op for this. They just say, hey, you're doing Apologia, hey, on Fridays or every other Friday or once a month or whatever, let's get together and just do the experiments and the demonstrations together. So that way you just have to pull in some of the supplies. You can, you bring this week's supplies, I'll bring next week or whatever. And you can kind of kill two birds with one stone and, have some social interaction time and, pull from other resources to get those experiments done. I've also been known to YouTube experiments if I just really didn't have it in me and we weren't having co-op that week or whatever, or it was an experiment that wasn't going to get done at co-op that I still wanted the boys to see. I have YouTubed it before. And they also have, when they show you an experiment in there, they usually take actual pictures to show you what it's supposed to look like. So if you just want to explain it to your kids, I do think it's important to get some of those demonstrations in, but I know sometimes you can't get all of them in. And also we just, pull those corresponding books from the library and just stick them into our library basket. And so, throughout the weeks that we're going through, weather or rocks or whatever, they can just pull out those books and just immerse themselves even more in what they're learning. So if you are looking for an engaging science curriculum that is biblically based and not a drag for mom, it's not a ton of work on mom, I highly suggest you check this one out. Like I said, this earth science is a little bit newer, so it's a slightly different than some of the other levels, but I mean, so far so good. And it's, just as good as all the other ones were. And I mean, I don't see us, unless the upper grades are, really hard or just way different than this, I don't see us changing anytime soon to a new science curriculum. So let me know down below, are there any other curriculum flip throughs you'd like to see? We use Sunlight for history, Bible, and literature. We also use Sunlight language arts. We use Sunlight preschool. We also use Saxon for math. So if there's any of those that you would like to see, then just let me know down below and I would love to make a video flipping through them, answering any questions you may have about it. But anyway, I thank you so much for watching and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.